Sanctions against Russian aviation have significant blowback effects that are simply not discussed. This blowback effect has potentially serious long-term consequences, some of which are a silent danger to worldwide aviation. If, say for example, there's a Boeing aircraft crash in Russia, Boeing would be prevented by Western sanctions from partially or even fully participating in any investigation, especially if, for example, it involves disclosing information barred by the sanctions. On the flip side, Russia may not want Boeing's full participation, as it would require them to reveal information about maintenance and spare parts, which could reveal how Russia Airlines evades sanctions. Central to keeping all passengers safe relates to the sharing of information not only from manufacturers to airlines, but crucially from airlines to Boeing and Airbus. Lessons are learned from all plane crashes and the information shared worldwide. Let's dive deep into what information and how this is shared, but first let's look at the financial loss to Boeing and Airbus. What people do not take into account is the effect on Boeing and Airbus of having Russia subject to sanctions. And the first of those effects are about the loss of a major market. Russia was a significant customer for both Boeing and Airbus, especially for commercial aircraft used by airlines such as Aeroflot, S7 and Rossiya. Sanctions halted new aircraft sales to Russian airlines, eliminating future business worth billions of dollars. Airbus had pending deliveries for Russian carriers. Boeing had a significant share in the Russian aviation market, particularly for wide-body jets. There's also the issue of titanium dependence. Russia is the leading global supplier of aerospace-grade titanium used in both Boeing and Airbus aircraft structures. Boeing previously sourced about 35% of its titanium from Russia. Airbus also relied heavily on Russian titanium. Sanctions and political tensions have forced both companies to reduce or replace Russian titanium, increasing cost and complicating logistics. There's also the loss from aftermarket and maintenance revenue loss. Aircraft manufacturers earn ongoing revenue from spare parts, maintenance and support contracts. Sanctions prevent Boeing and Airbus from providing spare parts or technical support to Russian airlines. This cut-off of a recurring revenue stream is a negative for these airlines. It also hurt brand trust and future prospects in the region, even post-conflict. But there's more: legal and contractual complications. Aircraft leases and financing arrangements became legally complicated. Many jets leased to Russian carriers were not returned due to Russian counter-sanctions. Western leasing firms lost over $10 billion worth of aircraft, affecting both Boeing and Airbus indirectly. That said, there have been deals made for all those aircraft except for about 36, whereby Russia has paid money to these lessors. The geopolitical instability triggered by the sanctions contributed to higher fuel prices and airline uncertainty, affecting global aircraft orders. In addition, the higher fuel can be seen from the fact that the Western airlines can no longer fly through the Russian Federation. However, countries such as China and Turkey, who have not imposed any sanctions, have benefited from shorter routes and therefore less fuel consumption by being able to fly through Russia. Airlines provide a range of operational data and feedback to aircraft manufacturers like Boeing and Airbus throughout an aircraft's service life. This data sharing is critical for ensuring safety, performance optimization, maintenance planning, and continuous product improvement. More specifically, we have the flight operation data collected by onboard systems like the flight data recorder or quick access recorder. These include information about altitude, airspeed, engine performance, thrust settings, landing rates, approach angles, autopilot usage, braking and flap deployment. These are often shared under the Flight Operational Quality Assurance or Airline Data Monitoring Programs. There's also the issue about maintenance and reliability. Airlines report issues that arise during the operation of the aircraft, including scheduled and unscheduled maintenance events, component failures or removal, time on wing data for engines and major systems, mean time between failures for components. This helps manufacturers refine maintenance intervals and improve design for future aircraft. Another issue is the health monitoring system data. Real-time or near real-time data transmitted via systems like ACARS, which include alerts about engine health, hydraulic systems, landing gear anomalies, environmental control systems, used by OEM for predictive maintenance analysis and to recommend early intervention. There's also the service difficulty reports, mandatory reports for regulatory compliance, particularly in the USA and the EU and others, covering any anomaly that could affect safety or airworthiness, shared with both regulators and OEMs, used for airworthiness directives or service bulletin. There's also the loss of operational feedback. Pilots, technicians, and operators also provide qualitative feedback such as handling qualities, avionics interface usability, cabin crew and passenger feedback, suggestions for ergonomics, maintenance, access or training improvements, often channeled through industry working groups, customer support portals, or OEM user conference. Finally, there is the question of fleet utilization and environmental data. Data includes average sector length, takeoff and landing cycles, airport environment, whether hot, dusty or at high altitude, flight frequency and load factors. These are important for customizing service packages, spare part supply planning and design adjustment for future aircraft or upgrades. So we can see that the sanctions have affected the manufacturers in ways that are not spoken about, and this is one of the hidden elements or the less discussed elements of the sanctions blowback.